So without further ado, please welcome the organizer of today's rally and the founder of Indivisible Rhode Island, Andy Acioli.
Hello. Sorry I had to do some notes, but a couple of our folks are traveling all over the world right now, and right till this morning they were sending me things like, well, you know what you should mention? You should mention this, you should mention that. So I was so confused, I said, I better print this out. Anyway, the three things that Shauna just hit upon: independent commission, prosecution, and tax returns. The most important thing right now in our lives. You know, one question was asked during one of our Senate office visits on April the 25th. And that was, we went to one senator's office, and Roy Strite asked one question, and that was, with Jeff Sessions recusing himself, who would be responsible for appointing a special prosecutor? Would it be Rosenstein? One senator's office said no, he doesn't have that power. The other senator's office said, you know what, that's a good question. I'm going to call Washington and let you know. Later that afternoon, I received a call from that senator's office, and he said, we did call the judiciary down in Washington, and yes, it fell upon Rosenstein to appoint a special prosecutor. Now bear in mind, this was April the 25th. I immediately contacted National and said, told them the result of our visit and that we can get a special prosecutor and it would not have to go through Sessions. I cited examples that I found or some documentation online. After about a week, they got back to me and they said, go for it. Keep us posted. So of course, the typical indivisible method is to make calls and make visits. So we made calls down to Rosenstein, down to the Department of Justice, and we left messages saying we want a special prosecutor. We didn't hear back. However, the next week, on the 18th, we did make a visit. We made a visit to the U.S. Attorney right here in Providence, Attorney Stephen Danbrook. And at first they wouldn't let us in, but there were about 3 dozen of us in the lobby. So they finally came down and they said that he would meet with us, but he's out of the building, he'd come back, be there in 10 minutes, and he was. I think it was a maze, because usually people run away from U.S. attorneys. We were running for him. And we stood there, and we just requested that he deliver a message down to Washington, down to Rosenstein. Please, get us a special prosecutor. He told us he can't advocate for us. That's not his role, that's not his function. His function is to enforce any kind of law. So we said, we understand that. But please, get a message. And he agreed he wasn't going to contact Rosenstein, but he would get the message to a higher up. As we were leaving, I told one of his assistants, you know, you're looking at about 36 of us here. I said, but multiply that times the other 6,000 indivisible groups across the country, because that's what's going to be happening at your other 93 Attorney General's offices all across the country. And we left. That was on the 18th. The 19th, around 5:30, I received a call from a friend. We were out to dinner, and I received a call saying, Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller as special prosecutor. Okay? And we were all relieved. We all collectively were relieved all over the country. We were relieved we had our special prosecutor, because originally that's what this was supposed to be. This march was for a special prosecutor. Fantastic. Except the next day I thought, uh-oh. Special prosecutors can be fired. I thought back to Nixon's days remember when he fired, well, he didn't do it directly, he went to his Attorney General Elliot Richardson and said, I want you to fire the special prosecutor, Archibald Cox. Richardson refused. He said, no, I resign. So the next person that Nixon went to was the Deputy Attorney General, who was, let me see, William Ruckelshaus. He too said, I'm not doing it, I'm resigning. He went to the Solicitor General. Solicitor General, who was Robert Bork, fired the special prosecutor. So the president can fire a special prosecutor. However, fury was just a fury across the country. And what happened? Nixon was forced to resign. Here, if Trump tells Sessions to fire the special prosecutor, Sessions, who supposedly has recused himself, I think would be eager to do that, since yesterday the special prosecutor said, we're going to expand our investigation to include Sessions and Rosenstein. Okay? However, were this to happen, I will guarantee you, if he would attempt to fire Mueller, people will be out in the streets in rage. But that means there's a necessity. Necessity is for an independent commission. The independent commission will operate completely separate and insulated from anything political. It doesn't have any labels, any political labels. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat. And what we want from that independent commission is the truth. Pure and simple, the truth. America deserves the truth. Now, whether that happens or not, most of us will say, gee, not another investigation. We have one going on in the House. We have one going on in the Senate. But you know, we all know how tainted those investigations are right now. Tainted by design. The House, Nunes, okay, he not only did he was forced to recuse himself from the investigation on the House side because of the horse and pony show that he created with that special document that it turned out was always there. But what he did is he tainted that investigation, and now that it seemed to be going somewhere bipartisanly, he got involved this week. And what is he doing? Issued subpoenas to the Obama administration and key figures. Okay? These are all distractions. That's what an independent commission will avoid. All these distractions. On the Senate side, originally, they were going to pick up the pieces by having like a Sally Yates testify before them. But then Sally Yates she was scheduled at the House. Nunes abruptly stopped it. But there was something that two senators did. Senator Graham from South Carolina and Senator Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island. They sent a letter to Sally and they said, could you please come and testify before the subcommittee, because their judiciary, of which the subcommittee is a part of, refused to issue a request that she testify before them. So they issued that. She said, sure. And we all know where that led to. That led to unveiling quite a lie by the administration that they didn't know much about Flynn and his goings on, except Sally did tell them exactly what was happening, how Flynn was accepting money and how he was subject to being blackmailed. It took them 18 days of phone calling, 18 days of outrage before they finally fired Flynn. That's why we need a special independent commission to investigate all of this. Beyond that, we need prosecution. Because if there are any crimes committed, we want them prosecuted. We don't want them pardoned. We want prosecution, not pardons. And the third reason why we're here today is the most important one. And that's what Trump's tax returns can reveal. There's an expression, not an expression, there's a verse in the Bible which says, "The truth shall set you free." However, if you want to deceive America, if you want to obstruct justice, if you're going to collude just to win an election, the truth is going to see that you get prosecuted. And also, on the tax returns, I'm telling you, if I hear tax returns one more time, I think my eye roll is going to be heard down to Narragansett. I'm tired of it, as I'm sure most of you are. However, the way the Trump companies are structured, the way his organization is structured, accounting-wise, and right now if my accountant's here, he's probably banging his head against a tree, right, talking accounting, but everything is kind of interspersed. All of his income, all of his dealings are. That's why if his personal tax returns get released, we're going to see, not as Mark Cuban said, that he's not really a billionaire, because who cares? Who cares how much he's worth? I don't care. But it's going to show us not how much income he makes or has. What it's going to show us is one thing. Who does he owe money to? Who's he indebted to? Now, you have a bank in Russia, one of Putin's, the oligarch pal's bank. I don't know the Russian name for it, but it's known as VEB. They have a branch in New York. In 2014, President Obama had sanctions against that bank when they found out it was the center of a spy ring. Russian spy ring, led by Sergei Gorkov. Gorkov is a Russian-trained spy, and he heads the bank, VEB. They also recruited someone who you've heard of, and you're going to be hearing more of as this investigation expands, Paige Carter. So you have that tie-in. Do you have the tie-in with Trump? We don't know. We don't have his tax returns. We know we have a tie-in with Jared Kushner because he met with him during the transition after Trump was elected, but before he was inaugurated. Jared Kushner did not mention that on his documentation for the national security clearance. But the fact is he met with him. Why? We don't know. I'm sure we'll find out. The Gorkov relationship has to be probed. Another relationship is Alfa Bank. Now, we heard about Alfa Bank. I heard about it during the election because a group of computer scientists were found at an abnormally high level of pings going back and forth between Alfa Bank in Moscow and Trump Tower in New York, specifically from the Trump Organization's servers. When all this was brought to the attention of Trump, he claims, I don't have anything to do with Russian banks. They don't provide any financing, nothing. 2014, they were opening a new Trump golf course in North Carolina. They love free press, by the way, what is positive to them. So they invited a whole bunch of reporters from all different publications there, and one of them was from a financial publication, and he asked Eric Trump, how can you possibly afford these golf courses and your expansion when American banks have kind of tightened things for you? Eric responded, we don't need American banks. We get all the funding we need from Russia. Interesting. So basically, that's what you have. So while you have Trump on the one hand saying, I don't deal with Russia, on the other hand, you have Eric Trump's mouth telling us where Trump's money is. We won't know that until we get the tax returns. However, we may not ever, because we're being stonewalled down in Washington because of the GOP-controlled Congress. However, we do have something going on right here in the State House. It's a bill introduced by Senator Gail Golden. I'm sorry. Yeah. Gail will be talking to you shortly.